There is a specific kind of quiet that settles over a city when the streets empty out. Whether it's the sudden shock of a lockdown or the slow, creeping isolation of moving to a new town, the physical distance between us can start to feel enormous. To bridge that gap, we reach for the closest lifeline, the glowing screens in our pockets. The interfaces of these platforms are deliberately inviting, with bright, cheerful colors and prompts encouraging you to make a first move. The experience feels far more like a game than a risk. We scroll through carefully curated photos and read witty bios, assuming that the platform itself serves as a filter. It creates an environment where everyone feels known and vetted before a single word is spoken. By interacting with people as digital commodities, we silence the ancient biological threat detection systems built into our brains. We let our guard down, opening a direct channel for real-world predators to step quietly into our lives. The first physical boundary a predator breaches is often the one we consider most secure, our own home. A casual swipe on Tinder can escalate rapidly. In one case, a man matched with a woman named Zoe. After a single date, her behavior accelerated. Within a week and a half, she was staying at his apartment and talking about how cute their future babies would be. When he tried to set boundaries, her reactions became volatile. She showed up uninvited to his locked laboratory workplace, pounding on the doors in a rage. And eventually, she figured out how to bypass the locks at his apartment. One evening, he returned to an empty, locked apartment, but things were slightly off. A few dresser drawers were left ajar. The space felt disturbed. He spent the night listening to faint, unexplainable noises outside his bedroom door. The next night, he walked into his dark bedroom to grab a sweatshirt and flipped on the light. In the reflection of a full-length mirror in the corner, he saw bright blonde hair. Zoe was lying silently underneath his bed. He quietly left the apartment and called the police. When officers pulled her out from under the bed, they found a massive knife in her possession. Once a digital connection is established, the physical walls of a home offer very little resistance. If a predator doesn't invade your home, they will often try to lure you away from it, pulling you into isolated spaces far from public view. During the height of pandemic lockdowns, a man matched with a woman named Kelsey. To ensure she was real, he checked her Instagram and Facebook. The photos matched, the paper trail existed, and his concerns vanished. The person behind the screen convinced him to drive 40 minutes to a local lake at 12:30 in the morning. She instructed him to bypass the populated campgrounds and park on the completely dark, closed side of the park, claiming they would have more privacy. This is a municipal notice that clearly states the park is closed. By ignoring the legal and physical barriers erected to keep people out of unmonitored zones, he isolated himself. He parked his car under a tree and sent a text. The response told him to look to his right. Instead of a 26-year-old woman, a tall, gaunt man stepped out from behind a tree, soon joined by a second, massive bearded man covered in tattoos. The man sprinted back to his car and locked the doors, just as the two figures descended on the vehicle. One began beating the hood with a hammer, while the larger man punched the driver's side window until the glass cracked, forcing the victim to floor the gas pedal and flee. As his phone lit up with one final message from the fake Kelsey profile, it read, "I know where you live." A verifiable digital footprint provides zero protection when the physical meeting place is engineered specifically to trap you. The final and most extreme geographic manipulation involves removing a victim from society entirely. A man struggling with the isolation of moving to a new town matched with a woman named Beth. She had a dark sense of humor and proudly claimed she didn't use social media, a trait the lonely man found refreshing and authentic. After a few normal dates, she proposed a moonlit hike. She directed him to drive nearly an hour into the deep woods until his cell phone lost service entirely. At 1 a.m., they left the car and began walking off the established trails, navigating by moonlight. Deep in a clearing, her behavior became erratic. She picked up a wild snake, laughing as it slithered over her arm, before dropping it to dance and twirl in the pale light. Then she stopped and stared into the trees. 3 older women burst from the tree line, sprinting directly at him. The women tackled him to the dirt, gripping him tightly while they chanted, as Beth retrieved a heavy bag of clanking tools from behind a rock. He only escaped by snapping the zipper of his own sweatshirt, slipping out of their grasp and running blindly through the dark woods until he reached a highway. When you are pulled entirely off the grid, miles from a cell tower or a streetlight, the app that introduced you no longer matters. You are left completely on your own to survive. In the aftermath of these attacks, law enforcement hit the exact same dead ends. The dating profiles were deleted, the burner numbers were disconnected, the people involved simply dissolved back into the digital ether. These predators rely on a psychological vulnerability. When a person is experiencing severe loneliness, the intense desire for human connection acts as a blinder, and the brain willfully drowns out obvious environmental warning signs. By the time the illusion of safety fades, the threat has already breached the perimeter. The danger has moved from a server miles away into your apartment, your car, or the woods right behind you. A matching algorithm cannot protect you from physical harm. It is strictly an introductory tool. No amount of digital convenience will replace the need to strictly enforce your personal geographic boundaries, because an inviting profile picture can easily serve as a mask for someone waiting for you in the dark. When the grind of everyday life starts to wear thin, the instinct to escape is universal. We look for a warm fireplace, a cozy cabin in the woods, and a few days to disconnect from the world. But leaving civilization behind means leaving its safety nets. Out in the woods, the social camouflage we rely on can vanish, revealing that you have no idea what the people around you are truly capable of. Take the case of a couple who invited their best friend, Randy, on a winter cabin trip. Just before leaving, Randy brought along a brand new rebound girlfriend named Lucy. The drive up was silent. Lucy barely spoke a word, existing as a ghost in the passenger seat. That quiet facade shattered the first night. Over a casual game of Uno, when Stacy called her last card, Lucy erupted. She launched into a screaming, toddler-level tantrum, accusing Stacy of cheating with a level of rage that felt entirely detached from the situation. Later at dinner, the behavior shifted from aggression to a total lack of boundaries. Unprompted, Lucy began volunteering highly private, intimate details about her and Randy's personal life. Randy was visibly mortified, but she continued as if the social discomfort didn't exist. By the middle of the night, the tension boiled over into a muffled argument between Randy and Lucy in their bedroom. Down the hall, the narrator and Stacy pretended they couldn't hear it, choosing the safety of silence over the awkwardness of a confrontation. The transition from screaming over a card game to violating private boundaries at dinner shows a rapid breakdown in social norms. This level of volatility suggests a person who has stopped performing the basic scripts of polite society. Geographic isolation removes the witnesses and social pressures that normally keep unstable behavior in check. Without an audience to hold them accountable, some people simply stop trying to hide who they are. The next night, Randy woke up to find Lucy standing at the foot of their bed, staring at him in the pitch dark. When he asked what she was doing, she shrugged and said she was watching him sleep, just in case. After she eventually wandered out of the room, Randy got up to check on her. He moved the blanket on her side of the bed and found a large knife hidden right where she had been sleeping. Terrified, he snuck out toward the living room and found Lucy humming to herself, skipping through the dark cabin. When the floor creaked, she stopped, turned toward his general direction, and whispered, "I see you." Moments later, the front door slammed shut. Lucy had walked out into the freezing forest wearing only a t-shirt and shorts, and the knife was gone. She returned the next morning acting as if the night never happened, but Randy found the weapon stashed in her bag before they fled. Once a threat enters the cabin, the safe haven is gone.
The forest becomes a wall, and the only protection you have left is a locked bedroom door. While some threats are invited in, others find you. Physical distance from a city provides no inherent protection against an external predator. A man named Victor relied on that distance.
Dealing with severe social anxiety, he spent years renting secluded cabins to find the absolute silence that the rest of the world refused to give him. That silence vanished during a morning hike. Deep in the woods, Victor began hearing the deliberate, rhythmic sound of branches snapping behind him.
Every time he turned around, the woods appeared empty, but the acoustic isolation made it clear he was being tracked. Spooked, he cut the hike short. Back at the cabin, his paranoia spiked, and he poured himself a few drinks to cope with the anxiety, inadvertently dulling his situational awareness just as the sun went down. At 11 p.m., a heavy knock echoed through the cabin. Victor turned off his music and approached the wooden front door, looking out through the small windows. Standing on the porch was a man who looked ready for a business meeting, not a hike. He was tall, athletic, and wearing a sharp suit. When he spoke, his voice lacked any discernible human emotion. He claimed he had lost his girlfriend and needed to come in to use the phone. When Victor refused, the stranger's story shifted instantly. He claimed there was something outside, and he needed to hide inside the cabin. Victor backed away to call the police, and the man started pounding on the heavy wood. When Victor yelled for him to leave, the man pressed his face directly against the glass. In a calm, flat tone, he said, "Come on, Victor, just open the door already." By the time a patrol car arrived 15 minutes later, the man had vanished. However, the officer found Victor's car in the driveway, with every tire deliberately slashed, effectively pinning him to the remote location. In the wilderness, your name and your location are the only things a predator needs to turn a sanctuary into a crime scene. Even when a cabin is empty, the space itself can hold on to a dark history. One man inherited his father's remote cabin, and, upon arriving to prep it for sale, found it permeated by a heavy, unmistakable smell of death. His father hadn't died there, but the property had been abandoned for a year. The son spent hours deep cleaning the ground floor, hoping that fresh air and soap could erase the feeling of decay. The air remained stagnant. The furniture, the bookshelves, and the layout were frozen in time, looking exactly as they had decades ago, adding a psychological weight to the physical grime. The memories he had of the place as a 10-year-old boy were suddenly replaced by the reality of a rotting, hollowed-out structure. As he stood in the silent living room, he heard it. Directly above him, in the dark attic, came the sound of heavy, deliberate movement. The unstable friend, the stranger at the door, and the presence in the attic all point to a single truth about isolation. We go to the woods seeking peace, but stripping away the noise of civilization also strips away the structures that keep us safe. So go ahead and enjoy your next weekend getaway, because you never truly know what the woods are capable of until you are entirely alone.